Today's BJC Prep Series session, we're going to talk about listening and reading comprehension. This is the paper 2 of the BJC. So what does it mean to read? Reading is the act of calling words with an understanding of what they mean. I'm pretty sure we would have all sat next to someone either in class or at a particular function and they might ask, what are we supposed to be doing? What she say? How to spell the word again? Can you repeat what you just said? These are questions that indicate to us that the person that's sitting next to us is not really paying a very close attention to what is being said. So what does it really mean to listen? Listening is the act of paying close attention to what is said and make mental notes to give a suitable response, especially during conversation. What is the purpose of listening comprehension? So we're now focusing on the paper 2, and of course, the listening comprehension is the first part of the paper that we would normally look at. So the purpose of the listening comprehension part of the paper, the BJC paper, is to test your ability to recall information and interpret that information. Let's go ahead and look at some of the comprehension skills that you will not only find in the listening comprehension part of the paper, but you will also find that these skills will be tested in the reading comprehension section of the paper as well. And we'll just look at a few of the basic ones. The first one is main idea. And the main idea is the central idea or topic that the passage, the source, or the article is about. Please bear in mind that there are also things that we call supporting details, for example, scenarios, stories, explanations that only help to prove or help to elaborate on the main idea. So it's very important that you're able to determine the main idea of a particular passage. Even when you're listening, it's very important that you, one, pay attention to what the title of the passage that you're listening to is, and also that you pay close attention to what is being said during that recording. The second one is author's purpose, and that's the reason why an article, a passage, or a source was created. And of course, there are 3. The acronym that we use for author's purpose is PI, persuade, inform, and entertain. Whenever something is written, there's a reason behind it. For example, the passage that we'll look at today for the listening comprehension section, it's basically to give us information about camping. So context clues is another thing that you will find will be tested. And context clues are hints in the passage that will assist the reader with determining the meaning of unfamiliar words. So as you're reading or as you're listening, try to see if there's anything to assist you with determining the meanings of those words that you are not familiar with or you might not have seen prior to the exam. Making inferences, and this is when we use the information that is provided to us to make an assumption about a character, scenario, etc., based on reasoning. Now, making inferences is something that we use naturally in our day-to-day life. We look at certain situations, and based on the information that is presented or that is laid out in front of us, we make an educated guess. So when you're reading, and you might find that some of the questions will ask you what will happen next, or what do you think the outcome will be. You're basically making an inference, an educated guess based on the information presented to you. Facts and opinions. Now with this, it's very important that you're able to distinguish fact from opinion, because you know what is the writer's or the author's stand on a particular topic or a particular subject as opposed to what is the actual facts. And of course, facts are statements that can be proven by conducting research. So we could probably look on Google, or we could check textbooks. We could also check historical books. Anything that can be used for research is where you will go to prove facts. And opinions are statements that cannot be proven, and they're based on personal beliefs. So it's very important that you be able to distinguish the two. So why is listening comprehension so hard? We've already looked at what it means to listen. We've looked at some of the skills that will be tested within the listening comprehension paper. But why is listening comprehension so hard? The first thing I can think of is that with listening comprehension, you don't have access to the passage. Of course, you have the first and the second playing, but after that, there's nothing for you to go back to and say, well, okay, I missed this point. Let me go back and listen to it. No, you don't have that advantage. So it's very important that in the listening comprehension, you pay keen attention to what it is being said and you make those necessary notes to ensure that you are successful. So here's the first reason. Talking speed. The person narrating the passage might be talking at a fast pace. So sometimes with this, words that you are familiar with, you might not be able to recognize them. The next one is dialect, depending on who is reading the passage. For us Bahamians, we don't have a strong dialect. For persons like Jamaicans and Barbadians, their accent or their dialect is so strong that if they use it to read a particular passage, it will automatically be impossible for us to understand that. So that's something that could also be a reason. Wrong sound, the way some words are pronounced within the recording might cause you to think that it's a word that you're not familiar with, and then you might not get that particular question right. So it's very important that you pay close attention to how words are pronounced throughout, especially during the second playing, when you have that advantage of writing those things down, because you'll be able to write notes during the second playing. So it's very important that you pay close attention to that as well. Lack of practice is very important that even now, although you're not taking an exam, it's very important that you pay close attention to what is being said by persons around you. If you're having a conversation with someone, utilize that as an opportunity to enhance your listening comprehension. For us, we normally just listen to give an answer back, but we need to listen to, one, make note of some of the points that the person is saying, and two, give a response. So although you're not really being tested at this time, it's very important that you begin practicing listening. So I'm hoping that when we're done with this session, you go ahead and take advantage of some of the resources that would have been posted. Another reason why bad tech, of course, we might not have this as a challenge presently in terms of scratchy recordings, bad headphones, because you don't use those. And the recording tape is fairly new when you sit the BJC, but you could have a poor sound device in terms of the CD player that is being used. It might not project the audio as loud, or in some rooms you might have an echo sound that can also make the listening process more difficult. Okay, so we're just looking at some of the things that will most likely make listening comprehension a little tasking. So all that means then is that you have to pay very close attention to what is being said. It's also very important to note, students, that if during the BJC exam and you're in the listening comprehension examination, that if you're unable to hear, it's very important that you let the invigilator know that you're not able to hear. So we're going to look now at the different sections of the listening comprehension paper, and this is the first section. We'll listen along. Some I might skip because we would have heard them already, but others I will play for its entirety, okay? So for this first one, instructions part 1, this is just the instructions for the listening comprehension section. So let's go ahead and see what is said with this. You'll find that within the listening comprehension, there's not just one person talking the entire time. You have a few things in between to make it a little more enjoyable. Now, this first instructions is for the invigilators. So let's listen up to see what is said.
Ministry of Education, Bahamas Junior Certificate Examination. English Language. Paper 2. Listening Comprehension and Usage and Reading Comprehension. Part 1. Passage for Listening Comprehension. Tuesday, 29th May 2018. 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Instructions to invigilators. Question booklets should be distributed before the listening comprehension recording is played. If this has not been done, stop the recording now and restart it after the booklets have been given out. Instructions to candidates. Do not open your booklet until you are told to do so. Write your school number, candidate number, surname, and initials in the spaces at the top of your booklet.
Okay, so that's the first instructions. Let's move on to the music in between. Instead of having long pauses or long periods of silence, they incorporate music for the transitional period. So let's go ahead and listen to our music in between. Now on to instructions part 2.
This paper consists of 2 parts. Part 1, Listening Comprehension, and Part 2, Usage and Reading Comprehension. For Part 1, you will be required to listen to a recording, which will be played twice, then answer the questions found on pages 6, 7, and 8 of the booklet. For Part 2, there are 2 reading comprehension texts. One of them includes a closed exercise, which is the usage segment of the examination. The second text is a passage. Read each text carefully and then answer the questions which follow. Answer all questions in the spaces provided in the question booklet. Number your answers clearly. Special attention should be given to the directions for each question. Work should be neat and well organized.
And of course, to move from one portion of the paper to the next, we have our music in between. Instructions part 3. And this instructions is directed to the candidates.
Part 1, Listening Comprehension. Instructions to candidates. The recording will be played twice. First playing. Listen carefully to the first playing to gain a general impression of what is being said. You must not look at the notes section or the questions during the first playing of the recording. After the first playing, turn to the notes section of the paper. Second playing. Listen again as the recording is played a second time. You may make additional notes as you listen. After the second playing, you will have 2 minutes to complete your note-making. You should spend at least 30 minutes answering the questions in Part 1B. After completing Part 1B, you should go straight on to Part 2. First reading. This passage tells us about how to make a family's first camping trip a big success. The passage will be read to you twice. Questions in Part 1B will be based on the passage which will be read. Listen carefully to the first reading.
We're now at the first playing. Now it's very, very important that during the first playing, you listen attentively and make mental notes. Of course, you're not trying to remember the entire recording, but try to see if you can pinpoint some of the key points from the recording and hold on to them mentally. So after the first playing, you can write them down in the notes section. So let's go on to the first playing to see what this recording is about. And of course, we're using the 2018 BJC paper as our guide for today. So this recording is from the 2018 language BJC.
how to make your first family camping trip a big success. Parents, family camping has several benefits, as it is a perfect way to get time alone with your children, and they can experience the wonders of nature with you. No matter what they occasionally say now, they will remember these trips with appreciation later. So have you decided to have this type of experience with your little ones, but you don't know where to start? No problem. I'm going to name the essential items you will need to have a successful first campout. But before doing that, let's get rid of some of the myths about camping. As you know, a myth is a false belief that many people think is true. Myth number 1. Camping is only for an outdoor person. Sure, camping is about being outdoors and enjoying it, but you don't have to be Ranger Tom or someone who loves to spend time outdoors. With the proper equipment, such as a full coverage tent to keep you safe and dry, warm sleeping bags, and some delicious food, you will have most of the comforts that you have at home. Only you'll be outside. Myth number 2. It's too expensive. Yes, everything you do seems to cost money. And yes, camping isn't free. But once you make that first investment in equipment, you will have many seasons of enjoyable camping at a fraction of the cost of staying in a hotel. Tell me, where else except at a campsite can you stay overnight with a family of 4 or more for under $50? Myth number 3. Camping is boring. What will I do with my children? Well, the answer is, while camping, pick some activities that your children like to do, or let them choose what they want to do. Go with them for a walk on a nearby hiking trail. As you walk, use all of your senses to enjoy the world of nature. Go fishing. Think about how excited they'd be if they catch something. The following items aren't essential, but you can bring pencils, paper, and crayons for your children to draw what they see. Trees, flowers, fish, insects, animals. You can even pack board games or books that will keep them entertained, especially if it rains. There you have it, parents. 3 myths or false beliefs about camping. Next, let's talk about where to go. For your first family camping adventure with the children, we recommend campgrounds that are close to your home. There are different types of campgrounds. You and your family can enjoy camping on a hiking trail, on a nature park, or even near a lake or canal. What to pack? Aside from food, there are a few essential items required for a great campout. Here is what you will need: a tent, sleeping bags, blankets and pillows, a personal kit which includes soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, washcloth, and a towel, a camp stove and fuel, cooking utensils, paper plates and cups, a cooler with ice to keep perishable items cool, charcoal and starter fluid, bottled drinking water, a first aid kit for treating a cut or bruise, fighting off infection, insect repellent such as a spray or lotion for mosquito or other bug bites, firewood, matches, lighters, and newspaper, trash bags to clean up the area. Let me quickly go over those again so you'll be sure to remember all of them. A tent, sleeping bags, blankets and pillows, a personal kit which includes soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, washcloth, and a towel, a camp stove and fuel, cooking utensils, paper plates and cups, a cooler with ice to keep perishable items cool, charcoal and starter fluid, bottled drinking water, a first aid kit for treating a cut or bruise, fighting off infection, insect repellent such as a spray or lotion for mosquito or other bug bites, firewood, matches, lighters, and newspaper, trash bags to clean up the area. If you go camping, please remember to take those items back home with you. Now, what's cooking? Good food and your family's preparation of it is an important requirement for enjoyable camping. This is the part that can be easy or complicated. If you are going on your first camp out, you would probably want to take the easy road until you get more comfortable with cooking outdoors. So for that first time, take food that you like to eat and that is easy to make. For breakfast, scramble some eggs, fry some bacon, toast some bread on the camp stove, and serve chilled orange juice. Perishable food items, all that food that is likely to go bad quickly, such as meats, milk, eggs, juice, and fruits, can be kept cool in a large cooler. Keep ice in plastic bags in the cooler. The food will last longer. For dinner, how about hot dogs with grilled corn on the cob for the main course, and pre-packaged cookies and a glass of milk make a great dessert. Be sure to include your children in the meal planning. Ask them what they would like to eat and sit down with them to prepare a menu. Get them involved in cooking by making sure that it is fun food that they would be eager to eat. Don't forget to let them assist in the cleanup. So, now that you know what is necessary when going camping, you should be well on your way to enjoying a successful camping trip with your family.
I hope that as you listen to the first one, you made mental notes. We won't play the music in between because it's the same as the ones we played previously, so we'll skip over that. Now, this is instruction 4 to candidates. This part is very, very important. I'll go ahead and play that one for you.
Turn to the Notes section of your paper in Part 1A on pages 4 and 5. Read through the suggested points and then make notes on the points listed. You have 2 minutes.
So within the note-taking section of the paper, they're going to have questions. that you'll be required to answer. After the first playing, and once you're done making your notes, it'll move to the second playing. And during the second playing, you'll be allowed to keep the notes section of the paper open. So that's why I encouraged you to make mental notes during the first playing, so you can answer as many of those questions as possible in the notes section before you get to the second playing, so you can make additional notes during the second playing. We won't play the recording a second time because we know what it's about. We have an idea of what it's about. Now, this is the notes section of the paper, and it asks you a few questions. The first one being, what are some of the benefits of camping? And I just made some notes there, and I'll give you that information as we go along. So some benefits of camping: one is inexpensive in the long run, and you're able to spend time alone with your children, of course, your family. One myth is that it is only for outdoor persons. The second myth is that it is too expensive, and the third is that it is boring. What are some activities that we can do? You can take a nature walk, go swimming or fishing. What places are suitable for camping? Near a lake or canal, or you can use a hiking trail. What are some essential items that you can go ahead and carry along with you? Tent, trash bags, a first aid kit, insect repellent, and a cooler with ice. What to do with those essential items when you are done? You should carry them with you. The tone, the speaker's tone is plaintive or pleading, a pleading tone. What are some of the food options? Hot dogs, grilled corn, toasted bread, eggs, bacon, cookies, things that are easy to prepare while you're outdoors. Now we're moving to the questions part of the paper, the part B section of the listening comprehension. Your notes, of course, will not be marked. They will not be graded. So anything that you write within the notes section is just to assist you with answering the questions in the part B section of the listening comprehension paper. And you will normally have a multiple choice section first. So here are the answers for the first four: C, D, C, B. The question that asked about two activities that involve the world of nature, hiking up a trail and fishing. For the true and false section there, your answers would be false, false, true. The recommendation, what is one recommendation that the speaker makes is that you should bring garbage or trash bags with you. What to do with the items that you bring on the trip, or what to do with the items once the trip is over. You should carry them with you. And of course, you ask that question about tone again, and it will be the same tone, the pleading or plaintive tone. And there's a chart at the back that will ask you to fill in the slots for B, whereas items taken on the trip, it would be insect repellent, you're putting that at B. And for the other side where it says, what are they used for? The first aid kit is used for cuts, bruises, or to fight infection. And what is the tent used for? It is used to protect you from insects and, of course, the weather. Now, what are some of our top listening comprehension tips that we can take away from this session? And I have 5. 1, be as comfortable as possible. Of course, we don't want you laying down in the exam or resting your head on the desk. But when I say be comfortable, if you know it's a cold day, ensure that you have your sweater. Of course, you know that you'll be in there for some time. Eat some breakfast. Ensure that you have a nice hot meal with some tea and all of that. Drink your water before you go into the exam. Of course, use the restroom so you don't have to leave the session during the playing of the recording to go and use the restroom, because of course, once you would have missed that playing, you will not hear that information again after the second playing. So when I say be comfortable, don't try to sleep during the exam. Just ensure that you would have done your due diligence. For example, eating breakfast, using the restroom, ensuring that you would have had a little something to drink, some water or some juice or tea, so you're not hungry, or you're not thirsty, or you're not thinking about using the restroom during that time. 2, be attentive. Don't be looking out the window or looking around the room or playing with some instruments that you might have on the desk. Be attentive. Listen carefully to what is being said in the recording, and not only what is being said. If you notice that during that recording, we had some sound effects. Sometimes the examiner might ask you about some of those sounds that were used within the recording. You want to know what those sounds were. So be attentive. 3, answer all questions in the note section. 4, use the second playing to make additional notes. So it's very important that during the first playing, you make mental notes so you can answer the questions that will be presented to you in the note section of the paper. And that once you would have made those necessary notes, when you have the second playing now, you could make mention of some things that might not be asked in the note section, but might be useful in answering the questions later on. And step 5, it's not necessary for you to try to write every word that is being said. Try to summarize some of the things. For example, you might not want to write, you should carry insect repellent. No, just put insect repellent. So try to summarize some of the points. Don't try to write every word that is said within the recording. Now on to our reading comprehension tips. And this will be very, very short. 5. The first one, do not read the passage first. And this is why I say that. It's very important for you to kind of have an idea of what you're looking for, because realistically, you don't have a lot of time. You don't have a day or 2 days or 3 days to sit down and read the passage over and over again and answer the questions, and you don't have time. So don't read the passage first. Instead, take a look at the questions to see what kind of questions are being asked. See, now with the reading comprehension, you have this advantage. The listening comprehension doesn't give you that advantage. So you need to make use of it. You have access to the passage, use the passage. Don't read it first. Look at the questions so you can have an idea of some of the things that you're going to be looking for as you read. 2, don't memorize the passage. Don't try to remember every word. As a matter of fact, some persons, you will find that they don't read the entire passage. They just skim through the passage and pull out the necessary information. But do not try to memorize every word that is said within the passage. 3, do not spend time on questions you cannot comprehend. If the question is asking you to do something and you're not sure what it is that you're being asked to do, or if you're asked and you can't really remember if you read that in the passage, don't spend a lot of time on that. Answer the ones that you can and then go back to the other ones. Of course, not leaving anything blank at the end, because you want to try to answer all of your questions, but don't spend too much time on those questions that you cannot answer right away or at that moment. Tip 4, do not rely heavily on outside resources or sources or personal experiences. It's very important for you to know that the information that you need to answer the questions will be found in the reading comprehension passage. There might be 1 or 2 questions that will require you to use your personal experiences in addition to what is said in the passage. but know that the information that you need to answer the questions will be in the passage that we'll be reading. And of course, 5, as you read or as you skim through the passage, make notes. Make notes as you read. I would suggest carrying a highlighter. If you're unfamiliar with a particular word, underline it, highlight it. If you think that something is the main point or might be useful in answering the questions, underline it, highlight it. And one thing to note is that within this reading comprehension section is that you'll also have a closed passage. Now I have a session where we talked about parts of a word and the closed passage that is called the BJC series parts of a word session. So if you need additional information about that, you can go ahead and watch that session, but we won't be discussing it in detail today. So thank you so much for taking time to be a part of this session and to go back and watch it. I hope that you find the information that I presented today useful and you use it to assist you with preparing for your examination.